BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jane Lewis and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, all the news, views and analysis you need on Friday the 17th of January as we look ahead to a weekend of Scottish Cup action.
It's got the green and white ribbons on it and it's held aloft by Callum McGregor and his Celtic teammates.
Holders Celtic start their cup defence with a home tie against Kilmarnock, and that's not the only all-Premiership encounter.
Long ball forward, comes off the head of McGinn. Oh, chance here!
Truly! Scores! 2-0 St Johnstone! Calamitous from Motherwell!
Bottom of the league, St Johnstone face injury-hit Motherwell. Plus, for Elgin City manager Alan Hale, it's all about the romance of the cup.
The reason why people like the game of football is because people want the underdog to succeed, and sport and football allows underdogs the opportunity to have that moments where they can come out and talk.
Can they achieve a monumental upset against struggling Aberdeen? That's just one of the many intriguing ties coming up this weekend.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Well, Stephen McGinn, former St Mirren, Hibs and Kilmarnock midfielder, is with us. So too is the former Scotland goalkeeper Gemma Fay. Scottish Cup weekend, Gemma, and this round's always a little bit special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit special. It's a little bit spicy. There's some interesting ties in there. Who knows what will happen? There's going to be some upsets. It's exciting. It
certainly is. For you, Stephen, any memories from the fourth round that jump out, good or bad?
Well, most of the time I played it was the third round. It became the kind of fourth round of the Premier League clubs came in the last, which is, I think, it's been a brilliant introduction. I'm sure at some point you're going to ask me about my tie of the round. It's a Clydebank boy. It's great to see clubs like Clydebank back in at this stage of the competition. Most of the time for this round you're just hoping to avoid teams from the same, because it is so exciting, because it is so broad, you're just trying to avoid teams from the same league, and that kind of freshness it brings in the middle of what's been a congested period.
Yeah, well, let's kick off with an all-Premiership affair, shall we? Holders Celtic facing Kilmarnock. Gemma, Brendan Rodgers been quite critical of his players after that draw against Dundee. He's described them as being soft, not quite at it. He'll be looking for a big reaction, won't he?
He will be. I think that's slightly unfair on Dundee as well, because I think Dundee were against both Celtic and Rangers were really good. And considering, if we're to believe they have the bare bones, maybe that's be struggling for those 10 players to come back into that Dundee team. But yeah, look, there's definitely a reaction that's going to be asked for in terms of the cup. It's at Celtic Park. It's versus Killie at Celtic Park. Kilmarnock are a difficult team to play against, but I can't see too many problems for Celtic in that one, to be honest.
Your old club have signed Calvin Ramsey. What can we expect from him, do you think? Is that quite an exciting signing, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's an area of the park. Kilmarnock have obviously Mayo, who's naturally a centre-half. Brad Lyons, naturally a centre midfielder. At times, they've been asked to play right back. It's probably an area of the park. Getting into January, we're thinking they might look to get someone in. And Calvin Ramsey, obviously, with his history of working with Derek McInnes and Paul Sheeran up there, I think it's a really exciting signing, and probably even for the national team, obviously a really promising player in a position that we've had a bit of struggle in the last year or two. Be great to see him come back up here and really get his career going.
And Gemma, we've spoken about St Johnstone's struggles recently, haven't we? Of course, they take on Motherwell in the fourth round of the Scottish Cup. For the Perth Saints, is this a chance maybe just to forget all about those league woes and maybe, if they get a victory, something to build on?
I mean, if we could just have cup games every week and forget a little bit of league woes staying, I'd be happy with that. But yeah, like whenever you have a cup game, it's an opportunity to kind of leave the stress of the league to one side. It's a free bat, isn't it? And yes, against Motherwell struggling a little bit in terms of their injury count. We know they've got some key players out. If we're looking for positives, the second half versus Rangers for St Johnstone was much improved. I think Valakari will take something from that in terms of how I know he wants to play attacking football, and I know all my fellow Perthites would love that, but we're also realists in terms of the quality of squad, the depth of squad we've got. And we like the cups. And we've had success recently. And our recent history, like when we say recently in St Johnstone, it's a bit different from other teams. Okay, so like within the last 10 years is fine. So no, I think it's an opportunity to, as you say, take a little bit of stress off the players, allow them to go and enjoy themselves. Against a good Motherwell team, but a struggling one in terms of those injuries, and hopefully we can take something out of it.
Yeah, Stephen, Gemma mentioned those injuries from a Motherwell point of view. Aston Oxborough, that their goalkeeper is out, Steve Seddon is out, and of course your brother Paul, unfortunately out for 4 months, as was confirmed yesterday. I mean, that's so tough for him after just coming back from injury. A nightmare.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was a horrible watch on Sportscene last week. You know, you get, as with both my brothers, you get like kind of live updates from my dad or my mum who's at the game. My dad's at the game, and he said he was quite emotional going down the tunnel. So you knew your gut, you knew there was something not right, and it wasn't nice to see. Obviously, he's missed a decent chunk of the season already, and I know how proud he is to be the club captain, and I think he feels guilty as well that he can't be out there with his teammates and representing the club. It just hadn't healed properly. Nobody was to know. Great that Motherwell have got him in to get him sorted so quickly, and hopefully he can appear before the end of the season, but really look to kick on again next season. Yeah,
we wish him well in his recovery. Let's move on with more fourth round action, and this one, quite a lot of eyes, I would imagine, would be on Elgin against Aberdeen. Elgin third in League Two, Aberdeen now without a win in 12 games. Gemma, is this a potential upset, do you think?
I mean, it is a bit of a banana skin, isn't it? Let's be honest. I've played up at Elgin, and I really enjoyed playing up at Elgin. I'm not sure Aberdeen will enjoy playing at Elgin, especially when on the run of form that they're on. I think Alan Hale up at Elgin will be sitting there excited about the prospect of, one, bringing Premier League opposition to the team, but also, like, you could probably call it that North Derby. It's the best team they could have drawn in terms of, one, form, but two, also the travelling support they'll bring, which is going to be really important, I think. So I actually think, yeah, it's one of the ones when you looked at the draw, you're thinking, but not when Aberdeen were obviously on the run and they were just starting that bad run. But now that they've kind of halted it with that draw against Hearts, but they still haven't got a victory. So if I'm Elgin, I'm kind of rubbing my hands. I've got nothing to lose in that one. It's an exciting game, I think.
Yeah, you only need to mention Darville to Aberdeen fans and they'll come out in a cold sweat. Stephen, how do you view this one as Gemma says, a potential banana skin?
Yeah, it's not a nice fixture, and when you've not won for so long. I'm more worried probably watching Aberdeen the other night than I was before it. It was very much the Jimmy Tilleen has got money in the bank, such a good start. Okay, they've dropped off, but there's going to be recruitments, transfer windows. I thought it was really alarming how poor they were the other night, just on and off the ball. And I know they've just made a lot of new signings and time to gel. I get all that, but I'm more worried about them from watching the other night. So I'm sure Jimmy Tilleen's happy to have this type of fixture. As much as you call it a banana skin, it's a brilliant opportunity to win a game of football before the league stuff starts. Stop the rot. But some of the signings need to gel quickly.
Yeah, let's move on to some more fixtures. Another one of your old sides, St Mirren. They're on the road at Queen of the South. It's been 4 defeats in a row for St Mirren. This could be an awkward one for your old team, Stephen, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's a brilliant trip. I know how happy the fans are to be going back down there. Of all the negatives of being in the league below, that was one of the positives, the trips like down to Dumfries. So they've sold out and really excited for a cup tie. And it's probably, across Stephen Robinson's spell as reign as St Mirren manager, he's got them in top 6, he's got them into Europe. It's probably the one last bit. He's the burning desire to take St Mirren to Hampden. So although it's tricky, you're going against a third tier team that will be right up for it. I think it's a good start to the Scottish Cup for St Mirren.
This is potentially a tricky one. Ross County against Livingston, Gemma. Livingston, well, they've blown a little bit kind of hot and cold in their form recently, but they're showing what they can do. Of course, they're away from home, so that might have a bearing, certainly from a Ross County point of view. What are you thinking? They've kind of found a bit of form, haven't they, County?
Yeah, they absolutely have. You take the Celtic game out of it, where I don't think they played horrendously bad. They definitely under Dawn have found form, bought in a couple of additional players over the transfer market as well. But you never know with David Martindale and his teams, do you? He's a wily old character, but I think that's a really interesting game. I think that game's going to be a lot closer than perhaps it is on paper in terms of where the teams are. And it was always a tight game when we were in the Premiership. So I think that's a really interesting one. And even though Ross County had a good run of form, I can't really call it.
Well, let's have a look at Sunday's ties, shall we? And Stephen, I know you're involved in Rangers against Fraserburgh. I mean, this was, I was involved in the fourth round draw with Stephen Naismith when he pulled this one out the bag. I have to say, my reaction was just like, what an amazing tie for the Highland League side, you know, and obviously all the kind of prizes that come with the fourth round and a big trip to Glasgow. It's just a brilliant tie. It's kind of, for me, what the fourth round of the Cup is all about. How do you see it going? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, even some of the coverage getting into the weekend about events have got on and how excited the players are, and it's just natural excitement. It's just such a buzz for them to go and play there, and like I think it was the last few years, obviously Bucky being at Celtic Park, they'll go and they're organised teams, they're fit teams. They'll try and be as organised and stuffy as you can, because as much as you want to enjoy it, you don't want to go and have, we see across the border, Salford going to Man City and it being 8-0. You don't want that. So there's a nervousness of enjoying the day, but also let's not get this embarrassing. So, but as you say, it's the romance of this round and the rewards for getting to this stage.
Yeah, obviously the financial rewards could be pretty significant for a club like Fraserburgh. On the pitch, how do you see it going, Gemma? Obviously, Rangers maybe starting to rebuild a little bit of confidence, maybe things settling down a little bit, do you think?
I'm loath to say yes, because like it's a bit of a rollercoaster with Rangers. At home, it seems to be fine. It's away from home, which is a bit of an issue. I think when I look at this kind of Rangers versus Fraserburgh, I'm kind of thinking Tamworth versus Spurs. Like that kind of game would be really exciting for the Fraserburgh fans. That kind of, not just the work, well, we worked really hard, but having like an opportunity, taking it to them at points in the game. That's the kind of game you kind of want for Fraserburgh, don't you? You want that kind of game. Rangers probably don't, but I'm not really too bothered what Rangers won. I'm more bothered about the excitement of the Cup. So, as Stephen said, there'll be a hard-working team. There'll be a fit team. And it's really about how can they overcome, like enjoy the occasion, but don't be overawed by the occasion. How they can maintain their shape and their discipline. They'll have a game plan going into that, and it's just sticking to that. And if they lose, the key thing here is that it's not to lose an early goal, isn't it? It's to maintain that clean sheet for as long as possible, because that just builds confidence. But yeah, it's an exciting fixture, and as you said, it's what the Cup's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely is. Stephen, I seem to have spent the whole of this podcast saying another one of your old teams, and I'm going to go to another one of your old teams now. Falkirk at home to Raith Rovers, an all championship affair, of course. Seen this win being tight, or will Falkirk just get back to their kind of league ways, do you think, against Raith?
Yeah, well, I was at the last time they played at Falkirk Stadium a couple of months back. Falkirk winning 3-0. So much has changed. Obviously, Raith having a new manager. All of a sudden, Falkirk's lead, which was healthy at the time in the championships, down to now we have a three-way title race, which is exciting. But I know from being at the club, they don't have a wealthy owner, the fan-owned team. I know how important cup runs are to that extra player for John McGinn. So in that sense, for Barry Robson going in there, I'm sure he'll be the same. The Raith board will maybe saying you're allowed to bring maybe one player or two players in, but it might be three if you win the game. So although it's a game in the league's priority for both clubs, it's in this month it's so important financially to get through. And I think it'll be a closer game than the last time. I think Raith will give them more of a game. But I expect Falkirk to come out the tie.
And then on Monday, we wrap things up as far as the fourth round of the Scottish Cup goes. A Dundee derby to look forward to. Both of the City of Discovery sides are in good form at the minute, Gemma, aren't they? This one to wrap things up, could be an absolute cracker, couldn't it?
I think it's an absolute cracker. As you say, both clubs in good form. It's not always the case when these two meet. It's usually one's one way and one's the other. But the fact that they're bang on form just sets that game up for an absolutely exciting end to a weekend of cup action. And if you were to ask me to call it, I can't. I can't call it because I just think they're just so exciting to watch at the moment. And as a St Johnstone fan, that's pretty hard to say about two Dundee teams. Doesn't come naturally to me. It's not in my DNA. But you have to take your hat off and dock it to when you see clubs in and around your area doing really well. And I think the atmosphere for that one, that's going to be a bit of a special game.
And Stephen, how do you see this one? It'll come as no surprise that you've also played for Dundee. What, 12 appearances for them, I think it was. So are you going to show your colours? Are you a Dundee blue for this one, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I worked with Tony Docherty as well. I thought he was a brilliant coach and delighted he's gone on to be such a good manager. It's one of the favourite fixtures I've ever played in. I loved playing in it. Loved watching it as a fan, so it usually had everything, but playing in it as well, it felt like it had everything. Dundee, obviously, with the pain of losing that late one to Dundee United at home a couple of weeks ago, off the back of a brilliant win against St Johnstone and 2 great points against Celtic and Rangers.
Right,
I think they might find a way at home to come through it.
Gemma's not happy with that comment. Obviously, that wrapped things up on Monday, but tonight it's all kicking off. The Scottish Cup 4th round is between, of course, Brecon against Hearts. The Craig Levein derby, some are dubbing this one this evening. It's live on BBC Scotland from 7:30. How do you see this one going? I mean, Hearts slowly starting to turn a corner, Gemma, or could this potentially be a tricky one? Could the old hedge get in the way?
The old hedge could get in the way. I was thinking about donating to the fund. No,
good.
Brecon sit on top of the Highland League with 15 wins, and momentum's a thing in football, isn't it? That regardless of what league you're in, if you've got momentum behind you and that winning feeling, that goes a long way. It's not really the trip I think that Neil Critchley was wanting to go on. Especially, like, they are starting to turn a corner, but it kind of almost seems for Hearts it's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back for the last wee while. So it's like just like the Dundee derby is a cracking way to end the round of ties. I think Brecon on a Friday night versus a slightly unpredictable Hearts is an exciting way to open it.
Yeah, it certainly is. We cannot wait for the 4th round of the Scottish Cup. Gets underway this evening live on the BBC, and of course all the rounds will be comprehensively covered for you across BBC Scotland on all of our platforms. Let's finally just wrap up some of the transfer news. The window is well and truly open. Let's just pick out a couple of transfers. Ross County, Stephen, have signed defenders Zach Ainsworth and Jonathan Tompkinson on loan from Blackpool and Norwich, respectively. That was an area that they had to strengthen, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Dom is looking to get defensive reinforcements in. You feel like, not just for Don Cowie, but the last few years of Ross County managers, you feel like he's getting into every transfer window and they're trying to bring in loans and they're losing players. It's a constant challenge up there. So you bring in young loan players and trying to adapt them in. But he's doing a great job of it. And it's a brilliant opportunity for boys to come up because they're getting football and off the back of it they're getting moves.
And Dundee United hopeful, Gemma, of landing another striker ahead of Monday's derby. Can we read into this a little bit, maybe that Sam Dalby is maybe returning to Wrexham, and that'll be a real sore one for them because he's been brilliant for Dundee United.
Yeah, I think so. I think unfortunately you're not Dundee United going to the market bringing another striker if you think that you've got an opportunity there. I know they were exploring the opportunity to see whether or not they could bring him there permanently. And that doesn't seem to, I mean, we're not near the end of the window yet. That doesn't seem to be coming to fruition. Perhaps evaluation from Wrexham, which may be a bit too high, but they've got bags of money, so they could just help Dundee United out a little bit. But that's a shame if that's one. It's a shame if Sam Dalby can't stay, but it's an opportunity for new strikers coming in.
And he's not a new player, but Hearts must have feel like they've almost kind of signed a new player in young James Wilson. Stephen, how much have you been enjoying his kind of rise to prominence, getting selfies at school and all the rest of it? It's just a lovely story, isn't it, more than anything else?
Yeah, I've loved everything about it. I've loved the bravery of Neil Critchley, who, under immense pressure, bottom of the league with Hearts. Can only imagine the noise surrounding a Hearts player manager being bottom of the league and not winning games, and then you put a 17-year-old up front and consistently, I mean, he's not just throwing him on for 10 minutes, he's playing him week in, week out, and I think it's worked really well. I think the freshness, the energy he's brought, I think he's really helped out Lon Shankland and now Liam Boyce, who's obviously just left. I think it's allowed them to play a bit deeper, and James Wilson's using his energy and makes good runs in behind. So yeah, I think it's been really positive in a year when we speak about how do we get more young players into the league, and we got a manager just went, there you go and play, son.
Gemma, were selfies a thing in your day when you were playing? They must have been all over you asking for selfies. Come on.
No, but they weren't a thing, Jane.
Let's move on, shall we? That is all we've got time for this podcast. Many thanks to Stephen McGinn and Gemma Fay, and thank you very much for listening as well. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every single day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have your push notifications turned on in your phone. Remember, BBC Scotland has the Scottish Cup 4th round covered for you across television, radio and digital. For now though, bye-bye.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.